I apparently left my camera set up when like it is when I have therapy. I generally like have it up higher so that like you can, I don't know, see me better or whatever. I don't know. Or like Zoom, I don't know. It formats differently when I use my camera on Zoom, and maybe I think I just left it that way or it got bumped or something. I can't let anybody know about the illusion. It's all stuck in the background. I had to take some Advil. I have I don't know, I feel very weird today. I have like a headache from this morning. It's very active and busy morning in my house, and just a lot of noise and a lot of stuff going on. So it was not a very calm, chill morning. My sorry, get my monitor set up. My middle son, I don't know. I always feel so weird saying that. Um, my son Philip can get into these things where he just talks, man. He talks a lot. And it's not necessarily like a bad thing, but holy cow, dude. Some mornings, like, we're pretty much, we're like, yeah, he's definitely the epitome of like an ADHD child. He is just off the rails a lot of the times, a lot of energy. And I feel like when I say that, it comes off sounding really bad, but it's not how I mean it. It's just his personality. Like, that's just what it is, Um, but I just find it interesting because, like, I was like, oh my god, like somebody can out talk me, somebody can outdo me, and it just seems like, wow, dude, that's just craziness, man. Um, but yeah, so we had a lot to do with that. There was a lot going on. And today was just one of those mornings where, me and my wife both woke up feeling weird, and then we just had a lot of stuff going on, a lot of noise, a lot of craziness this morning, and a lot of unfocus, which tends to cause us a lot of stress. Um Only because, it's we have a hard time focusing, right? So that is something that triggers us when others don't focus, because not that you should be able to, but we don't have to, but because it's more frustrating the amount of energy we're putting into focusing, and then when we have more energy that we have to expend to kind of get you back focusing, or whatever, it's just a weird interaction of energy, and it just frustrates us. It's like we have to focus even harder because we're talking to somebody who's not focusing now. So yeah, there's a lot of that this morning. Yeah. I noticed a lot of lag with my, I thought it was like my computer lagging when I was doing the video the other day, and when I rewatched the parts of the video that I wanted to clip out and edit, I was like, oh my god, the voice track was so far behind the camera, and I was like, I just don't know what's going on with that. But we'll figure it out. I think it has to do with like my output or something. I'm not entirely sure, but whatever. So I want to pick a playlist. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to Throwback Thursday. It's a really cool I don't feel like I want chill jazz. Calming cinematics. Let's give track 2 a try. We're going with we're going to try to go with alternative. I don't want it to be like a, like a major snooze fest. So today is Throwback Thursday. Give me 1 second. I wanted to put my watch on. Oh, going back to what I was starting to say before, about. Just want to make sure that the sound in the background is not too bothersome. What I was saying before about, me and my wife waking up in a weird mood, it kind of led into, sorry, I don't know if that's too loud. Hold on. All right, let's see if that helps. So then I can... There we go. There we go. That's a little better. So it's not so distracting for what I'm trying to do or say. So yeah, me and my wife woke up in a weird way. We had a great night. Everything was cool. Everything was good. We had, we were relaxed and whatever. We got to bed earlier than we have the last couple of nights. I just, sorry, I'm having a really difficult time this morning. The music's very distracting to me. I want something a little more upbeat than, I don't necessarily want like EDM or whatever, but I want something. All right, this sounds pretty good. I think this feels pretty calm. But we both woke up and I think we felt the same way. I felt like I had a headache. I felt very, I say it as congested, but it's more of like, I don't know, feeling like my sinuses and my head are like just swollen and thumping. You know what I mean? Like sort of migraine-ish, but not a migraine, like that type of thing. But, we both just woke up in a strange way, and not necessarily that it's bad, just it's a day that we both really have to be aware of how we communicate with each other and how we communicate with the kids and interact with our environment around us. Like we're both trying to stay on a positive note as much as we can and feel how we feel and kind of work through that. You know what I mean? So, it's just been a weird day. Like I'm very unfocused today. I also I had my rest tea and I had my, my relaxation tea. And I think just cascading, there's been a lot of times in the past couple of days where I haven't gotten that great sleep. So I feel like that's a big thing. So that's going to be a big focus of mine, especially tonight, is getting really, really good sleep. So that this doesn't continue, obviously. And I'm getting into tomorrow's going to be my work day. And then, Saturday is editing and the weekend and Dadder Day and stuff like that. So a lot of stuff going on that I want to kind of get ahead of and not just let this whole sleepy mood get, kind of get to me or whatever. But we are going on Throwback Thursday, and we're talking about my idea for Throwback Thursday was to talk about memories that we have associated with anger, and they don't have to be bad ones. But I think it's good to realize some things about, sorry, I'm looking for my notes. There we go. Got them. I was smart and I labeled them. Looking back on select everything. Sorry. Make it bigger so I can read it. Not necessarily bad memories, not necessarily all good memories, whatever. It's different for everybody, right? It's more about how you have interacted with, anger in your past, or, how you remember anger. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today was because we'll get into this a little more later. It's been proven that memories can be altered, memories can change, memories can be remembered wrong, for example. So I felt like it was important to touch on that for specific reasons that I'm going to get into a little bit later. Mostly because you might not be remembering situations the way that they happened or the way that they were. But, and that might take into account, or that might affect how it comes across when you talk about certain things or when you feel a certain way about certain things. And that's the important part of what I want to get to today. So, do you remember what your relationship with anger was or is? It might still be the same way. And what was your relationship with it, or what is it today? And how do you feel that it might have been affected by your past? My relationship with anger has always been a sort of seeing it as a sort of weakness. A strength and a weakness at the same time. I used to see it as a source of power, but I also saw it as my own weakness because, a certain amount of anger can be a great energy and a great, motivator, but it can also be very deterrent in that, you remember, you remember a lot of fear associated with it. You remember a lot of pain. Sometimes you get so blindly angry that you just do things that you regret, and you wish you can go back and change them to a certain degree. That definitely has happened with me. And my journey to kind of appreciate that for what it was and kind of leave that be has been like a long standing journey. Like I said, my relationship to anger has always been a sort of weakness. I used to kind of stumble over myself. I used to lash out. I used to be the epitome of like the Incredible Hulk, the mindless version for those of us who are Marvel fans, the like original bad boy, rampaging on things that seemingly had no relation to what I was feeling, breaking things, damaging relationships, stuff like that. What my main thing to do in times of anger was to definitely not express them in appropriate ways. I would find like the nearest thing to me and break it to release how I was feeling. And obviously, or I remember like screaming a lot, like screaming and yelling, and I used to shred up my voice because of like how loud I can get my voice to be. And that used to be my expression, and one thing behind that was I was a very scrawny kid. I was very small at one, like I was always tall, but I was very like skinny, and when I got angry, like, if I were to take it out on somebody, I feel like it would have no effect. It was all like a mental thing. And I was also afraid. I was afraid of retribution from that person, and so a lot of things would get broken. A lot of, stuff would get thrown, or I would be screaming and yelling and just angry, I would, like I said, I would find the nearest thing and break it or throw it or whatever. And obviously that ended up in me regretting the emotion because I didn't know what or how to express it. And what I did to express it would eventually lead to, I'm sorry, when I did express it, it would lead to me throwing and breaking things, and that would eventually lead into me regretting it because I was now missing those objects, those things or those people. I remember it started with me breaking things. I thought it started with me breaking things that I thought that I didn't want, and which to me made sense at the time. If I didn't want it or don't care about it, who cares if it's broken? You know what I mean? But my main thing behind that too was, like I said, it's an inanimate object that won't hit back because I was a scrawny little thing, and like I said, who cares? Like I didn't want it anyways. But enough times, what I didn't realize at the time was that enough times of you going through and breaking things that you don't care about, eventually you run out of things that you don't care about, right? Eventually you have nothing else to break. I started hiding holes in my walls, or losing it completely and fully regretting things that I did care about and fully regretted breaking things that I did care about and wanted to keep, only to never see those things again. Obviously, you can't replace things for one reason or another. And I remember like feeling such shame when it became something that I treasured, or something that I really did end up missing for whatever reason, even if I didn't know it at first, and I would I would try to actively choose, like I keep saying, I try to actively choose like what that object would be, or what the appropriate thing to take out my anger on would be. And eventually, I regretted it all, because at one point or another, it's something that I missed, or something that I didn't want to break, or, whatever. Or I felt weird about doing that. You know what I mean? Or I felt weird about breaking something, and like, now look what I did. What kind of animal am I? That's what it used to instigate in me. And those feelings became a cycle, right? They became like a cycle with it throughout my growing up. It would be like the initial feeling or the event that led to the anger, that led to the outburst, that led to regret, and then shame, and then anger, and then rinse and repeat. And then the cycle just kept continuing. And it's a bad cycle to live in, because it obviously I was left without a lot. I was left with walls that looked like Swiss cheese. I was left with getting yelled at, getting in trouble for breaking things, and for constantly getting into these modes. And that added to the feelings of regret and shame and embarrassment, which I talked about the other day, that were components of what fed anger and anger more. I did this in relationships as well, not that I broke anything, but it was more devastating, because in that respects I wouldn't be so expressive. I bottled things up, and I ignored the things that bothered me, and I would just let them happen until I exploded. And that was mostly my way of being a people pleaser at the time. If something bothered me, or if I was offended by something, or if I felt a certain way, I would kind of hold it back and just let the other person be if they were happy, And then the second that things shifted for whatever reason, maybe they were unhappy one day, or maybe they were upset about something one day. The second that shifted, that's it. The switch would flip, and then I'd get everything that I was holding back would come out, and not always would I realize what it was about initially, but I would definitely realize at the time that, like, wow, I didn't, I had all this stuff that I was holding back, and it was such a little thing that they did to set me off. And then there goes the regret, the shame, the anger, because I lost that person, or I hurt that person in some way, or something like that. It ruined relationships in that way, that sometimes the relationships weren't meant to be, which is a good form of ruining it, which is what I was talking about before, about like, not all the memories about anger have to be bad. In respects of being bullied or being taken advantage of, when I did finally express that anger and it broke off that relationship, that was a good thing, right? That was a good thing. It might not have been the best way to happen, but it was a good thing. I remember being bullied a lot as a kid, and the day that I finally decided to stand up for myself in an appropriate way, I feel like. At first, I wasn't really good at it, but it was effective. I remember the day I decided to stand up for myself. Now, I always had this thing where, like, no matter how small I was, eventually this moment came up where the bottle would open, right? And I remember there'd be some situations where I would, I looked at kids twice my size in both girth and height. And I was like, I'm about to get my ass kicked. You know what I mean? Like in the moment of me like screaming and yelling and pushing them or whatever, I was like, I'm about to get my ass kicked, you know? And I remember like a situation where a friend of mine ran in and helped at the last second, and like the guy backed down and that type of stuff, which was very cool. So in some ways, like instances like that, it actually ended up helping because it strengthened my relationship with a friend of mine, and it eliminated that relationship with the person who was doing the bullying, right? And nobody got hurt. Nobody got into a fight. Nobody, got whatever. It was over. It was after that, it was nothing else. It was just me and my friend on a better relationship because he had helped and I appreciated and blah, blah, blah. And then the other person was just done and gone, But I remember in high school was when was during the time where I mostly stood up for myself, where I started getting more of an appreciation for who I actually was and what I was capable of, how strong I was. That was one thing in my past that I've always had an issue with, is not feeling like I was strong at all. And even though I was very strong for myself as a kid. I never, in my head, I wasn't, and there was always that disconnect, and that's one of the reasons why I never stood up for myself. I felt if I landed a punch, it would not make a difference, But when I was in high school and started realizing my ability and my power and started appreciating myself a little bit more, I remember there was this kid that was actually bullying friends of mine. And I think that is what made me angry enough to stand up and support them. And, he basically, for lack of a better way to put it, I pushed him across the cafeteria. And, I remember it because it was such a moment of self-realization that this kid was threatening to get physical with me because I was defending my friends. And I didn't accept that. I was standing up for them. It was that time for me to put up or shut up, And when I pushed him and he went back into the tables behind him and the tables moved with him, I was like, whoa, I didn't realize I could do that, But that started a chain reaction. And even though in those moments, those weren't the appropriate way to express my anger, it could have been worse, right? Because we hear all the time about these crazy stories where kids just, let people walk all over them, or teenagers or adults, whoever, and then one day they just lose it, and it's in a very bad way, right? But luckily, those came to a head at the points that they did because it ended up a lot better. After that push, the kid wasn't hurt. He was, he got flung back into a table, but he wasn't hurt. You know what I mean? And he realized whoa, I'm just kidding. And I was like, my initial response was, you're not kidding. You're being an asshole and you need to stop, And then he understood at that point. And then that was it. There was no more problems with him after that. Things like that were moments that were pivotal in my life because I realized that I could stand up for myself, and I realized, the power that I had, the strength that I had, the appreciation that I had for myself and for my friends. And at the same time, I also realized that I could express it and make a point without hurting somebody, because that was another thing I used to be afraid of. I didn't want to hurt anybody, right? So those were pivotal moments for me. There was a bunch of that kind of stuff in high school that gave me a more solid idea of myself and that path. But those were my examples of good relationship endings, or good ruining the relationship instances where it was meant to end, and in some cases the other relationships were strengthened because of it. But there were also relationships where, I had somebody who took advantage or somebody who was bullying or whatever. And I tried to hold on to that relationship either because I thought it was a good relationship for me to hold on to, or I thought the person was cool and I wanted to be associated. I didn't care what I looked like, in relation to this person, like that type of thing. And looking back on those now, I'm so thankful that those ended, but I just wish that I would have stood up for myself in a better way to end those relationships rather than getting walked on and just left behind, that type of thing, or getting walked on and exploding or screaming or, acting like an animal about it. And, either way, like I said before, like nobody was hurt, but in those instances, like, what's the word I'm looking for? I just lost my train of thought. Nobody was hurt, but, I also didn't necessarily take that initiative to express myself properly, whether it was yelling or screaming or, just being like, you're an asshole or blah, 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 like exploding on him like that. There was much better ways that I could have done it if I knew my self-worth at that point, right? So yeah, so those were the ways that they were kind of ruined in a good way. But the other way that my relationships got ruined in the past were them being good relationships that I wanted to stay good. And to avoid issues, I would, like I said before, bottle up disagreements or try to avoid conflict. Or, when they got annoyed with me, I would ignore when I got annoyed with them type of thing. And eventually it just didn't turn out well. It ends up in regret and resentment and pain and, a lot of blame. And that's one thing that I realized from Marshall Rosenberg's book, A Nonviolent Communication, was that that was one of those things where I constantly blamed the other person, but I never blamed myself. I mean, to a certain level I did, but I don't think I fully understood it at the time, where I would blame them for like, oh, but they couldn't see that I was, being patient with them and waiting for them, or they couldn't see that I put this stuff on hold so that they can feel better. How are they supposed to know, if I didn't express that? So taking that blame off of them and putting it where it belongs, but not in such a negative way, where it's like, self-defeating, where that's what I used to do. I used to be like, oh, I'm not worth standing up for myself. Or I used to say like, oh, I really, I deserve to be in this relationship, or I want to be in this relationship. So I'm going to put my wants ahead of my needs, like that type of thing. Where in a loving environment, I would have communicated with them when they bothered me or when the disagreement didn't go well or whether I felt disrespected or not, but in a good way. You know what I mean? So, like I said, like a lot of those situations didn't turn out well, and it's very unfortunate, but having to do with memories, like, a lot of people deal with regret, and you look back on situations like that, and this all sounds horrible, right? Like this all sounds pretty bad, except for the point where I, decided to stand up for myself. But it sounds like there's a lot of regret and disdain and unfortunateness to it, right? But I've learned how not to see it that way, because then it can become very cyclic, like getting back into that anger cycle that I was talking about before, just feeling the shame and the regret and the anger and the shame and the regret and the anger, whatever, instead of looking back on those situations and being like, well, they weren't meant to stay. Like there's a lot of situations like that I can remember in my past, but you don't really appreciate those until you get to that level of understanding about yourself, how it wouldn't have been so good. It for whatever reason, even if you don't see it, maybe it's not worth it, right? But there's another side to those memories where, sorry, I'm just following up on my notes. Oh, right. So the only thing I wanted to talk about besides that was, like I said, I remember those situations where if I had expressed myself properly in the first place, these things could have ended up way, way different. Or not, who really knows? But I feel they would have had a better course, that I feel like I would have had a better course of action if I had taken the proper steps previously, only because there wouldn't be so much that was still bottled up, right? And I mean that in the way that sometimes we, like the stuff that we hold on to, we don't you ever pour out like a water bottle or a milk bottle, and you ever notice how there's always that residue on the inside? No matter what the hell you do, you can't, unless you like cut it open and blow dry it out or whatever, you can't always get all those droplets out. Eventually, if you collected enough droplets in that bottle, it gets bottled up again, right? So with that same type of explanation with anger, if you don't fully take care of all the situations that have happened, or not all the situations, but if you don't take care of those water drops, and those feelings and those emotions, they can still come back to you. They can still drip out. They can still stay bottled up and just sit there and kind of fester, and I think even with how far I've come now, I still experience those. When I feel that somebody's disrespecting me, well, why? Does this relate to something that happened when I was a child that I felt disrespected? That type of thing, But what I was starting to lead into was that, the funny thing about memories is that they can be changed, which is what I was saying earlier today. How many times, when you think about it, how many times have you over embellished a story or a memory or, like something that you were expressing to somebody or remembering for yourself, and that over embellishment stuck, and maybe you added more, or maybe you didn't, or maybe you thought you remembered something that you might not have, or somebody, I don't know, whatever the story may be, it changed the memory, right? And sometimes people do this and they don't intend for this to happen, but like I know we all know those people, or maybe we've done it ourselves, where we've told the story and we add emphasis to it, and then that emphasis becomes a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and then the emphasis is so strong you gave that memory a whole different response, or a whole different action that happened, right? Excuse me. And sometimes it's based on our audience, who's listening. Sometimes it's based on how much respect you want to have for somebody, or it's based on, just making the story interesting for somebody, or whatever. It can get changed with alternate input. Like if somebody's hearing the story that was there and was like, wait, that didn't happen, I remember it this way. Well, that's good, but now you have two conflicting memories, and they may not be 100% of what it was, but now you're combining the two. And the outside stimulus makes you think like, was there a little bit of this in there? Let's piece this together. Or, you can take on what they remembered, and then it's not your memory anymore. Or, seeing a photo or a video or something like that that displays something different than what you remember. Those kind of outside stimulus can affect how we remember things, and it might not be immediate. It might be the more we look back on it, it might be whatever, or you could just not care. And regardless of whether you see a video of that memory or a photo of that memory, you still want to remember it the way you remember it. It is what it is, but we do that, and it's important to address that, because what happens, this happens with those memories of situations where you became like embarrassed or angry or stressed or whatever, and because you remember it with that emotion involved, you now compound that emotion to the memory and any other emotion that you receive, like the outside stimulus, or you might see something in the photo that initiates another emotional response or something like that. You now compound those emotions to that memory, and you're reliving the pain of the emotion, or you're reliving the pain, the emotions, the everything, and trying to fill in the dots, and maybe even adding to those memories. So how many memories do you know of that you can actually tap into that emotion again, right? Like getting married or having kids, or which I have something to say about that, or moments where you've gotten angry or upset. Maybe you were crying for 2 minutes and it felt like a damn eternity, right? Maybe you were extra excited and happy and everybody else around you had a miserable time. You never know, stuff like that, right? And so you remember these situations that had these emotions tied to it, and now it's back in full force because you're reliving that memory, right? You're now back in time. Your brain is a time traveler, and I'm going to do that topic another time. But your brain is a time traveler. So you have the ability to relive events of your life or to foreshadow events of your future and add emotion to it and add things that make it feel very real, right? And you can put yourself through more stress this way. You can put yourself back into that mood this way, remembering a fight that you and your partner got into or whatever, and you're now angry at them again because you're feeling that unresolved emotion, right? But you add all these other things to it, and if it's compounded with their emotions that were in there, or somebody else's outside stimulus, or even just your own, and you're reliving it and you're rehashing it enough to add on to it, then it becomes something more than just a memory, right? What did I have? I forgot what I said like literally 10 seconds ago. I forgot whatever I said I had to add on to. Tap into that emotion again as you remember it. I'm trying to look at my notes to see if I can instigate a thought process about whatever I was talking about. Whatever. If I remember, I remember. And so with all this stuff to take into account for, it's also possible that you don't actually remember the situation the way it was, right? Like the example that I just gave, or you don't remember, you think something was worse, like, talking about the crying situation. Maybe something did upset you. Maybe you cried for a couple minutes and then got up and ran off and did something else. But you remember it as you sat there and you cried for an eternity, right? Because the mind is a time machine. You have the ability to go back in that memory and press pause and live in that moment of pain as much as you want. Or you can fast forward it. You know what I mean? You can do pretty much anything with it. And sometimes we get stuck in that. If you've ever went back to a person who was involved with the situation and you said something to the effect of like, I was so pissed off for whatever reason, and they respond, really? Wow, I had no idea. I didn't mean it like that, or something to that effect. Now, that outside stimulus is a positive thing, right? Now you're changing the emotion around associated with that memory or getting a deeper understanding of it, and you're really addressing what that memory was about. And sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's worse than you thought it was. But the thing is, you're addressing it and you're working through it with the person that was involved or with yourself, whoever needed to be involved in the whole situation. And it can turn things around for you. It can make you realize things about yourself that you didn't really know about, It happens to all of us, and we all share the same effects from these type of situations, whether good or bad. And, this energy that's left over from these emotions, they can be negative things because that's just what it is. It's leftover energy from these situations that don't really serve us right now, but we still feel them. They're still there, right? But that has the potential in itself to make things feel better, to make things, to help you figure out things. It's the kind of situation where like it may be painful to look back on something, but if you explore it to its most honest degree. Now, I'm not saying chase down people involved in memories or chase down people who, you might feel a certain way for or feel a certain way about, angry or upset or in love or whatever. And I'm not saying like track people down and let them know, but I'm saying understand where you were in that moment. Why did you feel like it took an eternity? Well, because I was embarrassed that there was so many people watching me cry. I was embarrassed that so many people saw me go through the emotions and go through the event that happened. I was upset that the event happened. You start getting a deeper understanding of this stuff. If like I'm going to go into this a little bit further in a couple minutes, but what I started doing was writing things down to get a deeper understanding of it. And that's my main thing, because I write. Some people draw. Some people, who knows, listen to music or do whatever. A lot of people associate specific songs with a certain event in their life, and that's the event that they remember with that song, but it's important to start understanding what happened. And even if it's a bad situation, even if you feel like the bad guy, even if it kind of makes you look down on yourself, the trick is to look back at it with loving observance. I feel like that's the best term for it. Look back on the situation and understand you're light years now ahead of where you were. The people that are no longer involved in your life from that situation were not meant to be involved in your life now. That's just what it is. It might be painful, but that's just what it is. And, who knows how things could have turned out if that situation didn't work out like that, But it's important for you to get your own interpretation, your own understanding of what was happening, and, how you feel, how you reacted, how you responded, because that kind of self-reflection can, dig deeper into yourself and get a better understanding of yourself and the things that are going on, So, to kind of close out today's little talk about it, I know it was like way shorter than I expected it to be, but I have found that in my personal experience, if I write about these experiences, like I said before, it's almost like shaking out the cobwebs in your brain, and you start to see things that you didn't know were behind them, covered in dust, under drapes, whatever. You start shaking things out and clearing things up, and then you start realizing, like, oh wow, this is what I was actually going through. You write down what you honestly experienced, or you draw, or you talk about it, or you sing about it, or you listen to that music again on repeat until you get a deep understanding of what the relationship is with that, and how you remember it. And you practice this a lot, and that's the key behind doing this exercise. You have to practice it a lot. You'll notice that eventually a new thought about that memory will start to surface. New details will pop up, and you could possibly either change your perspective on them or help you understand them better to move on from them. And what I mean by that is I've had instances where I start writing about situations that had happened in my past and how I remembered them. And as soon as I write them down, it's almost like if you have a closet full of boxes, right? And writing it down is your way of taking those boxes out of that closet. So you take these boxes out, and then you see something behind the box that, like, you were like, oh my God, I've been looking for this. It's the same thing with that thought process. Like, you write it down, that's now out of your head, and you can clear room to find all this other stuff. And you might find those details that you were like, oh my God, but I do remember this. I do remember that, so-and-so was there. And, I do remember that it wasn't as bad as I thought, because, I might have been crying because my friend did something, but, then my other friend came up and helped me out, and, stuff like that. And all of a sudden that memory is not so much of a bad thing because of the negative event that happened. It's a good thing because your friend came and helped you out. It's easy for the brain to remember negativity. It's the brain's self-defense mechanism. It's how we've survived for so long. You don't want to get eaten by a tiger. You're afraid of the tiger. Run away from the tiger. It's the same type of thing. It's like, it goes back to fight or flight and centuries of, knowing how to do this to survive. And, but it's time to rework that. We're no longer running from tigers. We're no longer needing that level of survival, right? So it's not time to get rid of that entirely, but it's time to rework it to better serve us to move on into the future. Because what comes along with that is a lot of regret and a lot of living in the past, right? Rehydrate. I was thinking about it for the last 5 minutes, and I was like, I need it now. So yeah, it's like I said, it's rewiring your brain. It's building those new neural bridges to be able to understand things in a different light. And what that's going to do, the best part about it is what that's going to do is not just help you understand your own emotions and feelings and things that you were going through, but it's also going to greatly help you understand other people's feelings and emotions. Like I know when I look back on things that I used to think or feel, and I revisit them in my present self, and say I see one of my kids going through the same feeling, or somebody I love, my wife or my family members or whatever, I'll use that as a tool, and I'll say, hey, I remember when I look back on this, like I remember I felt like crap, man. I felt embarrassed that people saw me do this, or I felt embarrassed that I felt like I couldn't control myself. And you see a look of relief on that person's face when you bring up these experiences, like, wow, somebody else does understand. That's pretty cool, And so there's ways to put positive spins on it to be able to use them as tools for a positive future. And what I was saying before was there was a motivational speaker. I forgot their name. That he said, for every negative action in your day, you need 5 positive actions, or every negative spoken thing in your day, you need 5 positive things to negate that one negative, right? That's how the brain functions. So if somebody says you smell bad, you need 5 other people to outweigh that and say, oh, but you look great, you smell good, I think you smell fine, whatever, stuff like that. Same thing with, pretty much anything else you could possibly relate that scenario to. And it happens with our memories too. Going through my past, I used to be so bothered, and I used to bring it up to therapists all the time, that like I can only remember the negative things about my past, and that's not true. The therapist would challenge that and be like, well, okay, tell me a situation. And it could be whatever I came up with at the top of my head. And, they would respond with something like, like say it was a frustrating situation between me and my father or something like that. Just coming off with stuff off the top of my head. They'd be like, wow, it sounds like your dad was really upset. Why do you think? And I'd be like, well, he used to work a lot. He maybe he was tired from work. I don't know. Maybe I said something at the wrong time and he was just exhausted. I remember he busted his ass for us, and he tried to give us everything that he could. And, all of a sudden you hear it right there where it starts turning a negative experience into a positive situation because I'm changing my perspective on it, right? And it's nothing to do with manipulating the memory itself. It's like, wow, it's just giving me a broader view of what could be happening, right? And I think in regards to memories, we remember things with tunnel vision, and we kind of pigeonhole our memories where it's just this portion of the memory is what stays, because when you think about how the brain reacts to things, the initial emotion is what your brain cues into. I remember what I wanted to say. When I talked about, I think for some reason in my head, a memory came up of when my kids were born. And let me try to see if you can actually tap into that emotion again as you remember it, and it's like you were there in full force. So in regards to when my kids were born, right? That's the statement. How many memories do you know of that you can actually tap into that emotion again as you remember it anyways, and it's like you're there in full force? Some exceptions occur. And the exception for me is when my kids were born. My kids were born. Obviously, I was very happy, but there's so many emotions going on that I don't think it's possible to be able to incorporate every one of them as a standalone emotion, or to point out any one of them as a standalone emotion. I think that there's anxiety, fear, happiness, excitement, joy, anxiousness. Sometimes there can be frustration. Sometimes there can be bliss. It depends on your situation. But I remember feeling very just whew, when my kids were being born. And I know it was a great memory. I know it was a phenomenal memory, and I would never have missed it for the world. But I think I remember it like that because I had so much going on at the same time in my mind and in my heart that it was just craziness. But I do remember, even if I don't remember visually that second that I looked peacefully into their eyes when everything was over and they were good and everything was good. I even if I don't remember that visual intensity, I remember that emotion of just pure love, But that's the type of situation I wanted to talk about with, because that for me, I don't think will ever change. I don't think anybody else can elicit an emotion that for me that wasn't there, because that was so. Especially for an ADHD mind like mine, that had so much going on that I had no choice but to focus on everything, and I just took everything in at the same time. So I'm glad I remembered it, because that's one thing that I always say. It's life-changing, and it's a completely original experience. But yeah, I think that's the main point of today's talk about memories and anger specifically. Not just anger, but all emotions. But since this week's theme is anger, that's what we're talking about. It can be changed. It can be changed in a good way or a bad way, and you are in full control over what changes it. And we're going to talk more about a lot of this stuff tomorrow. And go over for Fix It Friday, go over more ways that to alleviate anger, to see anger differently, to not necessarily, I don't want to say avoid it, but to avoid it, stuff like that, and to work with it, to be in it, to live with it. I think it's very important to look at all aspects of it. But I forgot what I was saying. Damn it. But yeah, it's important to know that, even your memories of how things have happened, one of my favorite things about it was a line in the Joker, not in the Joker, from a comic book that the Joker starred in. I think it was called, oh man, I remember the issue cover. It was like the Joker taking a picture. And it was basically what the Arkham games were set off of. And in this comic book, the Joker says, or in this graphic novel version of the comic book, the Joker says something to the effect of, "It's no fun having a set past. When you're somebody like me, it can be whatever you want." And that's because he was so crazy. He didn't know what was reality and what wasn't, so he just made up whatever he wanted, and he can switch it at any time. And technically, we all have that ability. We all have that power to be able to do that, and it's something that we don't tap into enough. Even in your present day, that's what being mindful is. It's tapping into that ability and being able to change a situation in the moment. And I think, it starts with now, but it supports it if you go back in time and revisit some of those situations with love and respect for yourself, and try to get a different point of view, a different perspective on what you remember happening, or what the situations might have been. So that's it. That's what I wanted to chat about today. Please feel free to chat it up and talk about what you've experienced in your past, and let's have a conversation about it, Oh, man. I feel like I'm so off today. I can't. I can't, but I can. Damn it. I can't wait to work out today. It's been on my mind since this morning, to be honest. Just readjusting things a little bit. Sorry, give me 1 second. What do you guys think of the music selections? I also want to know in the streams. I think I'm gonna stop this so much, like because I have it up here where you can see. I might need to redo it a little bit so you can see it better. But I have in the upper corner here, because when I redo the video, I kind of cut this area out. I have in the upper corner here the song and soundtrack information, and yeah, I want to keep that going and kind of eliminate the chat static so that I can really focus on when somebody's talking in chat rather than possibly missing something. But me and my wife are chatting about something too that happened that I want to talk about in a minute because I think it's very important. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the music if you have any requests. Also, you can type in !SR space and then the YouTube link to any songs that you might want to hear. I can improve it right while we're live and put everything up on the screen so we can enjoy some time together and have some fun. I'm always open to seeing stuff. If I come back to it and I just approve a bunch of stuff at the same time, if there's a playlist of stuff to listen, we can always take a break and do some sharing like that and talking about stuff. Or if you want to switch up the topic, I don't want anybody to think that coming into these episodes that it's impossible to talk about what you guys want to talk about. Just because I have a set theme for the day, I can take 20-30 minutes to do it, or I can just do it another day. It's not a big deal. I want this situation, this stream to be about you guys and about what people want to hear and what people want to talk about. And I'm very open to how the format goes. It's a more fluid format than I feel like it seems right now. But yeah, just to, hit up the suggestion box, throw up something in chat, hit me up on Discord, hit me up on any of the socials. Damn, I keep forgetting I need to write that down. I keep forgetting to edit the bot so it puts up the Discord stuff. Let me just take a note. There we go. Now it's in there. Now it's in my digital brain. God, my eye is so itchy today. So, now I'm all red-eyed. So with me and my wife this morning being in weird moods, like I said before, we have to kind of be careful how we communicate with each other and, without going crazy and whatever, causing further issues than need to be caused or whatever. We are working very hard on our communication level and there's always room for improvement, no matter how, oh my God, no matter how good or bad you may be, there's always room for improvement. And, we constantly look for new levels of intimacy in it and reinvigorating our our relationship, you know. And it's not that we're not comfortable at all, because we definitely are, but we're afraid of becoming too comfortable, and that's where a lot of problems in relationships stem from, right? So we constantly try to work and find different ways to do things, and like different ways to talk and communicate and understand each other, and, you know, associate with each other. And you know, like we talked this morning, and I noticed I got very frustrated, and in the moment, this is how advanced my temper management has become. Like, I have a lot of weird things in certain respects, right? My wife has like a tendency to go on very long, like, stories, like rants or whatever when she talks. And I have ADHD, so it's very, 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 very hard for me to maintain my attention level throughout the whole thing, regardless of how much I want to. And you know, I get frustrated because I might think of something that I need to say, or I might whatever, and I forget. Like, especially like I was driving this morning when we were talking, so I was, you know, getting very flustered, and I felt like what I wanted to say I couldn't say. Even though she ended up saying it, it still felt weird. Like I needed to get it out, you know? But I also knew that I was in a weird mood, and I asked the question that instigated all this stuff, and it wasn't like a bad situation. But I didn't expect it to go so in depth. And the whole reason why I called her was something else entirely that we didn't even get to talk about because of, you know, time restraints and stuff. But you know, I texted her after the fact, because I didn't have the ability to call her again. And I just said, you know, I think that's one part that we really need to focus on, is I know that you tell very long-winded stories, and I know that's how you talk, and I need to respect that. But at the same time, we need to work on allowing me to talk too, because I sometimes need to say something, or I can't pay attention that entire time without saying something in between or whatever. And I sent it, and I was kind of like, oh, I hope this isn't gonna lead into something bad, you know, like an argument or whatever. But I sent it being honest, being respectful to the both of us and whatever. And she had texted me back, basically, you know, explaining her side of it, and just saying how, you know, she hopes that I don't take it the wrong way or something like that. But she was being honest and respectful. And you know, I just pointed out, I was like, you know, I didn't take it that way. I know what you mean. I was afraid that you were going to take it that way too. But you know, I just think it's something that we both need to work on, and we agree. And I was like, see, this right here is proof that we communicate better than we did you know, years or months or weeks or days ago. Because in showing that appreciation to each other and being honest, but not immediately taking it to a defense level, is important, because we used to do that. We used to take offense to things that didn't need to be taken, didn't need offense to be taken to. And, you know, we've accessed another level of our communication where it just makes us closer. You know, makes us closer, makes us feel more open and free. And, you know, even though we have some of those residual worries behind it, like us being afraid we were going to take it the wrong way, that'll subside. The more we practice this level of communication, that will go, you know. I just think it's a beautiful thing, and I think it needed to be pointed out and honored. And, you know, it's one reason why I love her, because, you know, she challenges me, but she also sticks up with me and changes herself. You know, she challenges me to change for the better, not to change, but to evolve. I want to make that very, very clear. Nobody ever changes. I think you work with the potential that you have to grow and evolve and learn and move on from the place that you were, but I don't think that you change. And that's the difference between personalities and, you know, what somebody wants opposed to what another person wants in a relationship. But, you know, she helps make me a better person in that way, where, like, you know, it's just all very good. You know, it's all very good stuff. You know, she challenges me to be a better person every day. I think I do a pretty good job at challenging her to be a better person every day. And we appreciate it, and we love it. And we're never bored. Never bored. because there's always something new and exciting going on. But I think that's where I'm going to end it today, on that positive relationship note. I apologize for being so out of it today, so discombobulated and disorganized, and or feeling that way at least. Hopefully I'll get a little bit more sleep and come back stronger tomorrow. That might also be part of the problem, is I got more sleep last night than I have in a while for random reasons. And that might be this like weird mood that I've been feeling today. Yeah, so I'm happy that you guys were here. I'm happy that you guys will be here in the future. I'm happy that, you know, whoever's checking this out on the VODs or the YouTube channel or whatever, I'm happy about all of it. I'm just happy. So please feel free, guys. I'm going to get into my spiel a little bit. I want to type this stuff out so we have them. That's so weird that all of a sudden I thought socials was working yesterday or the other day. So this is my Discord. This is my website and socials. So if you guys have anything to tell me, anything you want to suggest, anything you want to let me know, you want to join into the community, you want to know what my schedules are going to be, you want to know what the topic of the week is going to be, you want to just see what the hell I do in my own time outside of the stream, check these out. Definitely join the Discord. I'm very active on Discord and the socials. And, let me know what you think. Let me know, if you have any suggestions or want to talk about anything. It's open. It's open for you guys. Definitely check out the website, and I will catch you guys tomorrow at 10 a.m. We're going to talk about how to fix things in relation to anger. Not necessarily fix anger, because I believe it's a force and a power to be worked with, and we'll talk about that more tomorrow. But I will see you there, and I wish you all the best of Thursdays. Enjoy.